Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. Won't you share with a friend or two? Good morning. Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning to you and many more. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome, welcome, welcome to Daring Dialogues Black Table Talk Edition. I am your host, Shantae Charles, and this is a Daring Dialogue. I want to thank you, first of all, for your time and your attention today. I have had many, many new followers. So if you are a new follower and you're with me for the first time, please say good morning in the chat and hello and tell us where you are signing in from. You can tell us your country or your state. You don't have to get down to your city or your county. You don't have to post your zip code, your email, and all these other things that I see people asking for um, online. So just say hello into the comments, say good morning, and I will say good morning back. We're not going to be long today. This is going to be our last Tuesday live broadcast for 2024. Now, I may come on and I may do a carol or something like that, but this is our last Daring Dialogues broadcast for Tuesdays for 2024. We will pick back up again in the new year. We are also broadcasting on YouTube. We're going to do a lot more over there in 2025, just because if you've been paying any attention to what's happening in social media spaces, a lot of these spaces are becoming more and more restrictive to content creators of color. So we're asking that you also follow our YouTube. We are moving along with our subscribers. We are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. So if you would do me a favor today, click on the link that's in the chat that says youtube.com at Life Nation KC. Go to that page, hit subscribe, and click on the bell if you want notifications of when we go live over there. All right. Today we are looking at the book Rock My Soul, Black People and Self-Esteem. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time today talking about what is in the news. If you want to catch my news and my insights on news all through my news feed on Black Table Talk, we are constantly telling you what's in the news. So make sure you check out our posts. Make sure you check out our links that we're dropping. And even in our stories, we're posting what's happening in the news on a consistent basis. So those things will not change. All right. Those things will continue through the end of the year, into the new year, and beyond. But our live show, this is going to be our full live show for this year. This is our last Tuesday. Typically, we come on Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're wanting to know when do we actually go live here, so you know that this is a live page run by Black people, not sourced out to Mexico and Saudi Arabia. If you go down and you look at some of these Black pages and you go to the About section, it will tell you who is actually running that page and whether or not they're in the United States. So a lot of these pages are not run by Black people, just to be honest with you. This one is, okay? So I've been on here enough time so people know my face. My husband has been on here. We both co run this page. All right. So there is a black man and a black woman from the United States who are descendants of the enslaved, the formerly enslaved that run this page. So you don't have to wonder who is behind this page. It is I. Okay. All right. Let me see. Do I have any? I have one good morning. So if you're watching today and you can type good morning or GM, please feel free to do that in the comment section. And you can also let us know what state or country you are viewing from. Things that I don't want to go into detail about on this platform because we know, as I said before, this platform, because it is run by someone who is pro 45, and notice I'm not calling him 47 yet, because we know this platform is run by someone who is pro 45, there are certain things that we will not be sharing on this platform. However, the things that we do share that are important for you to know, we will post about it and then we will say video in the comment section. So if you see those posts that say video below, link below, it will take you to further information that we feel is important for us to share as a community. I also want to remind us that we already know that America was founded on criminality. Okay. That's not something that we need to beat around the bush on. You're going to see stuff that's going to enrage you. You're going to see stuff that's going to anger you. Probably in the next, 30 to 90 days, you're going to see a lot of stuff. But just remind yourself this country was founded upon criminality. Good morning. This country was founded upon criminality. So we don't need to act shocked at what we see. We definitely should be appalled, but we don't need to act shocked. We don't need to act shocked when we see presidential elect candidates standing with unalivers of innocent black people. That's par for the course in America. Okay? What we do need to focus on, though, is us as a group, as a people, as a community. At this point, this is the best time to be building community with those around you. This is the best time to be looking at your resources of those around you. This is the best time to be finding your black owned businesses, your black owned farms. Like, this is the time. This is the time to be finding your black owned clothing goods spaces. This is the best time to be finding your free black libraries. This is the best time. This is the best time to be finding the black teachers in your community and having those conversations that we know we're going to need to have come January 2025. Start now. Start now. So if you have not been building community, this is the perfect and most opportune time to do it. It's going to be the holidays. People are going to be out and about. People are going to be out in the community. You're going to see who it is that you can connect with. All right. So use this time wisely. I'm going to go into Bell Hook's reading today, Rock My Soul, Black People and Self-Esteem, and we're only going to read a short section of her work today. We are on chapter 5, which is perfect for the season that we're in because it is entitled Refusing to be a Victim. All right? We know this country makes its victims, but we have the right to refuse to be one. You still have that right. You still have the right of choice in a lot of things. You still have the right to decide what you will not tolerate. You still have the right to decide what kind of education your children are going to get. That's still your choice. You still have the right of where you will spend your money. And most of the people who've been following our page for at least a year already know what they should be doing at this point in time with their money because we do it. We encourage people to do it. If you're not doing it 24/7, 365 already, if you're not already doing that, if Buy Black is not already ingrained in you to do that first, we encourage you to do that from Black Friday all the way through to Martin Luther King's birthday. We encourage you to buy black until you are in the habit of doing it. So for people who are not in the habit of doing it, who've never done it, who've never said, let me find the Black business owner first, from Black Friday to Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, it's a challenge for you to only shop Black. Because again, what we know about America is America understands green. America responds to green. That's what America responds to. So you can shout, you can be angry, you can cry, you can scream, you can rave, you can rant online, but America responds to green. And when they're not getting your green, they take notice of when they're not getting your green. So this holy day season, let's make sure that they take notice that they're not getting our green. Regardless of how they feel about us as Black people, they take notice of when they're not getting our green. As our elders would say, I'm going to show you better than I can tell you. Because we've been telling them for a while now, and they're still not listening. We've been telling them to stop harming us, and they're still not listening, right? But they understand green. They may not care about Black people's feelings, but they do care about green and where it goes. So use that to your advantage. All right. Let's take a listen here as we read aloud. And someone asked the question, why are we reading aloud? And my question is, literacy rate in America? That's reading aloud. That's just one of the reasons. The other one is because I actually enjoy it. The third one is because people like books read aloud to them. So that's what we do on this platform. If you're wondering, what are we about to be reading from? It is Rock My Soul, Black People and Self-Esteem by Bell Hooks. And I think this is a appropriate passage for some of the things that we see taking place right now. Keep in mind, she wrote this about 20 years ago, and it still resonates today. Plainly put, parents of Black children who are aware that they live in a racist society that negatively stereotypes their children may act in a critically conscious way by turning off the television set because it is the primary propaganda machine of pseudo, I like to add that word in front, white supremacist thought, or providing their children with positive images that counter the representations imposed by the dominant culture of whiteness. For many years in our nation, the everyday survival of Black people demanded that they develop basic skills of critical thinking. Critical thinking right now is not on sale. Imagine subscribing to my channel only to come and tell me what you think I'm going to listen to. People on YouTube are wild sometimes. The way Walmart is tap dancing for the Black dollar right now, ain't it? Ain't it though? Listen, listen. If you are in a space where you can boycott Walmart, then do so. Unfortunately, there are a lot of rural communities where Walmart is the only store. But if you have options other than Walmart, let your green do the talking. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right, good point, Crystal. Good point. For many years in our nation, the everyday survival of Black people demanded that they develop basic skills of critical thinking. Critical thinking is not on sale right now, okay? It is a high commodity. Getting people to come into any space to think critically about what they must do with their lives, for their children, for their community, this is a hot commodity right now. It is. It is. But you can do it. You can gather the people in your community. You can come together and you can say, what are we going to be doing in our community that is going to be different from what we see happening on a national scale that is anti-Black? What can we do? During the long period of racial apartheid, Black folk had to be critically vigilant to be always aware of how the system that was exploiting and oppressing them worked, and as aware of what needed to be done to intervene in this system. We are here. We are here. We are both having to be vigilant of how these systems exploit and oppress. And we also have to be vigilant about what needs to be done to intervene in these systems. Someone asked the question, this was a Black education page last night. Someone asked the question, what can we be doing to help our children in the coming school year? Number one, connecting with Black educators. There are Black educators all over the internet right now, all over the internet, because for some reason, a lot of teachers did not know that their positions are tied to the Department of Education. If the Department of Education is dismantled, a lot of these positions are going away, namely the ones that support special education. A lot of these federal requirements, IEPs, 504s, those were federal requirements to make sure that students' needs are being met. If those things go away, who is going to be helping your child? Who's going to be helping your child? All right. So, one of the things that people can do along the line of education is start connecting with the Black teachers that you see. If you know Black teachers in your community, start connecting with them. Ask them, what can I do to help my child succeed in the coming half of this school year and beyond? What do I need to know? What is coming down the pipeline? Because I guarantee you that information is coming to the teachers in your vicinity first before it gets to you. So that's number one. Number two, why not start something that has to do with a community school or community learning? Many of us have community centers in our neighborhoods. You have parks and rec in your neighborhood where you can actually call and find out what community centers allow you to reserve space. A lot of them will allow you to reserve space for free. Why not start a Saturday school with people in your community who have skills like free tutoring, like um, as one of my friends who is online with us right now, like gun safety and weapons training. Those are things that can be done right now. Yes. Now, should you pay people who are going to be volunteering to do this that might be doing it for the whole community? Absolutely. But it can be done. Just like people take up offerings on Sundays, take up an offering for that Saturday community school that needs to be happening. I'm just saying. All right, I'm going to keep going. Choosing to be unconscious or unaware easily led to severe punishment or death. In many ways, like abused children in a family system, the African American enslaved became hypervigilant, obsessively monitoring the movements and behavior of their masters and mistresses so as to exercise whatever control they could within a structure that was out of control. As long as brutal racial apartheid existed and white people could dominate black people at will, critical vigilance was constantly needed to ensure black survival. If you do not understand where we are critically right now, understand when the leaders elect are hosting people who have unalived innocent black people and gotten away with it, they're literally signaling that that kind of behavior towards black people is okay. So if we didn't get the memo, that is the memo. Okay? If you did not see that, just go look it up. Go look up, and I don't even want to say the guy's name. Go look up the president elect hosting unaliver of Jordan Neely at a game. When you see those visuals put out into the news, into mainstream news, that is your visual. That is them letting you know that they're going to celebrate people who unalive innocent black people. That is your cue that you need to move differently. That is also your cue that you need to train your children in self defense. That's also your cue that you need to get some 2A training because they're on something different right now. They are. Like many situations where something constructive emerges from a negative circumstance, the critical consciousness African Americans developed to resist racist exploitation and oppression has been a catalyst stimulating the overall urge to live a conscious life. So if you are not conscious, if you are not conscious, you are unaware. And if you're unaware, you are susceptible to, as my teenage students would say, to getting got. We don't want anybody susceptible to getting got in 2025. So make sure that you're doing what you need to do in order to not be in the get got community. Gaining civil rights and economic prosperity led many Black Americans to relax both their critical vigilance in relation to whiteness as well as their awareness of the importance of living consciously. Explaining the nature of living consciously, Nathaniel Branden writes, living consciously implies respect for the facts of reality. We would love to be in a society, many of us would love to be in a society where we did not have to keep our heads on a swivel, but we're not there. We're not. And so to pretend as if we are leaves us in a vulnerable state. So, what are the facts of reality? This means the facts of our inner world as well as of our outer world. Living consciously is living responsibly toward reality. We do not necessarily have to like what we see, but we recognize that which is and that which is not. Wishes or fears or denials do not alter facts. If I desire a new outfit but need the money for rent, my desire does not transform reality and make the purchase rational. Living consciously was and continues to be an oppositional practice for Black people. Many African Americans entered the post civil rights era weary of just being critically conscious. They fantasized that equal rights in a democratic nation would mean that they would no longer have to bear the burden of hypervigilance or sustain critical consciousness. Like other Americans, especially white folks, they made freedom synonymous with not needing to be critically aware. They imagined that they could be free like everyone else. In their minds, the ultimate freedom, the freedom they felt, was the freedom to remain aware, to have the privilege of walking through life in an unconscious dream state. And even though the racist assaults on Black people continued in everyday life, many Black people not only abandoned their critical vigilance, they stopped exercising critical consciousness. Trying to live consciously came to be seen as an obstacle to getting ahead. When freedom came and Black folks were compelled by the continued circumstances of domination to recognize that civil rights had not brought an end to racism and pseudo supremacy, many folks did not want to return to the rigorous struggle that had previously characterized the Black experience. The perseverance in the face of difficulties that had been an ancestral legacy was abandoned by many Black folks who began to see themselves as always and only victims. By taking on the status of victimhood in a manner that denied all personal agency, all ability to effectively change and intervene in one's circumstance, many Black folks surrendered all their power to be self-determining. Everything that happened could be blamed on racism, the system, the man. This embracing was a response in part to the nation's willingness to extend a helping hand to those who did not appear to be self-determining, militant, or decolonized. All too frequently, lots of Black folks found that if they just played the role of victim, assuming an almost minstrel-like persona, they were far more likely to receive attention and handouts than if they demanded justice, accountability, and reparations. Because how dare you demand justice, accountability, and reparations when we don't see you as humans? In order to have human rights, you have to first be seen as humans. And we still have a great swath of people in this country that have yet to see us as human. Now, that's a reality. The question is, what are you going to do in light of that? Ironically, in the post civil rights era, racist white folks, especially those in power, imposed the identity of victim onto black folks, then only a decade later accused them of whining about victimization. A resurgence of this supremacist thought and practice in the 80s and 90s coincided with the perpetuation on a national level of the misguided notion that racism had ended. Embedded in the assumption that racism was over and the notion that any black person who challenged pseudo supremacy was either just mad or whining or wanted something for nothing. All over the nation, black people faced racist backlash, as they do now. And if the censoring and distortion of African American experience coming from these channels was not strong enough to invalidate or silence black protests, then the system called on a new breed of enforcers, black folks who had internalized this supremacist thought. They could strategically be used to keep other black people in their place. In the last decade alone, more books than ever before in our nation's history were published by black writers telling the American public that racism was over, that any black people who claimed to be victimized by racism should be viewed with suspicion, that more than likely they were dishonest con artists out to get something for nothing. And we know that that has morphed into some of the figures that we see right now, some of them that came on the political scene that were then given nothing for their betrayals to the black community. John McWhorter's Losing the Race, Self-Sabotage in Black America is one of the most clever examples of this new writing. McWhorter tells readers any number of anecdotal stories where he interprets an individual story, suggesting that he or she is a liar. McWhorter goes to other extremes, appearing with grandiose and false claims as he critiques black people. The role of self esteem plays as a force determining the fate of individual black folks, and this is not discussed at any length in his work. Had it been considered a factor in many of the incidences he offers to show how black folks embrace what he calls victimology, a different interpretation of why so many black folks self sabotage would emerge. The neoconservative public he addresses his work to, a public whose thinking about race continues to be informed by pseudo supremacist logic, are not interested in the ways issues of self esteem lead individual black folks to be self sabotaging. While I am in agreement with any social critic who holds the opinion that way too many black folks have embraced the idea that they are only victims with no agency, it is clear that the refusal to assume responsibility for self has reached epidemic proportions in the society as a whole. Black people who see themselves as always and only victims have embraced a way of thinking about their fate that dooms them. Yet their nihilism is not merely self chosen, it is a reflection of the nihilism expressed in mass media. One of the most powerful methods of psychological terrorism used by pseudo supremacists continues to be rendering black folks invisible. Psychoanalytically speaking, we become subjects through a process of acknowledgement. Black folks who believed their equality meant that their full humanity would be acknowledged were shattered when they were faced with painful disacknowledgement. For example, many black students who have entered PWI structures believing themselves the equals of their peers when repeatedly treated, however, put in place. White teachers expecting black students to perform less well convey these beliefs in both conscious and unconscious behavior in the classroom and usually get the less than quality results they expected in the first place. While critics such as McWhorter can mock individual black people in relative and predominantly white settings by doing this, he discounts the reality that those accounts of shaming have been exaggerated precisely because the longing and need for white approval has been so intense. If an individual black person is longing for someone to embrace them wholeheartedly, thinking that the adjacent whiteness is going to greet them, then the individual in question might easily interpret these responses as an assault. Any critic of self sabotage in Black American life who refuses to acknowledge the role self esteem plays in how we experience and interpret the encounters we have will create theories that will be tragically flawed. Though terribly inadequate and flawed, much of the work that looks at the failures of Black Americans and claims to offer explanation deflects attention away from the persistence of that thing we call everyday racism, and it is accepted without question. When Black folks address the issue of everyday racism, naming how it impinges on our day to day well being, only to simply be accused of exaggerating, individuals whose self esteem is fragile come to fear naming what is hurting them. And yet, this repression itself is dangerous because it promotes psychological implosion. Time and time again, Black folks talk about feeling crazy when they name this and its impact, only to have their stories discounted. This discounting is a form of psychological terrorism that has been used to silence any kind of anti racist protest, and it supports racist backlash by encouraging masses of white folks and other groups to see Black people as crazy when they discuss how they have been treated. Living consciously, Black folks today must search for ways to talk about the impact of racism on our lives that don't lead to a perpetuation of the notion that we are always and only victims. Unenlightened mass media has served as a covert propaganda machine for pseudo supremacist thought, manipulating representations to convey to Black people and everyone else the notion, however false, that Black life is just horrible and that Black people are the enemy, that they are dangerous to themselves and others. This misguided message that Black folks are victimizing themselves and calling it racism has become such a popular theme in mass media that there is little to no effort to challenge it. So when we see, as I said, when we see leaders elect standing shoulder to shoulder, grinning and skinning with people who have no problem unaliving innocent Black people, they are signaling that this kind of behavior in our nation is okay. And as a response, we have to be outraged because mainstream media is not going to be outraged. There has not been not one, I have not seen not one piece on how outraged people should be about that. I haven't seen mainstream media speak out. They have been promoting it. They have been promoting it. So when you see people say they don't trust mainstream media or they're looking for alternative sources of news, that is part of the reason why, especially in America. Especially in America. So again, as we go into this season, I want to encourage you to make the connections that you need to make in your community. Work on self protective measures, not only for yourself, but also for your children. All right. This, I think, everything that I wanted to share today. Again, if you're looking for the book, it is Rock My Soul, Black People and Self Esteem by Bell Hooks. And I want to thank you for your time and attention. We're not going to be doing a talk back today because I am out of time. But I thank you for your time and attention. This has been an episode of Daring Dialogues Black Table Talk. If you want to reach out to me and you want to know more about me, I will drop a link in the chat where you can contact me and look at all of my other channels and things that I have to offer. All right. Light is the most daring opposition to evil. So go out and be light today in your community. Thank you again. Take care and be well.